Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Wednesday's Reflexology Wisdom. And we are live. We have an amazing panel. It's what we're calling the Academy 5. Actually, it really should be called the Academy 6 because there are 6 of them. But it's Bill Flocco and 5 absolutely amazing tutors. I also believe that we have got people literally from every hemisphere, every corner of the globe here. I have had emails from people in New Zealand, Australia, South America, obviously the United States and Canada. We've also got people from Europe, and then, of course, from Britain and the Republic of Ireland as well. So it's just absolutely fabulous to have you all with us. And of course, just as I'm trying to start talking, I'm getting people that are trying to join, which is then sort of, I'm thinking, oops, how do I let them in? I think that's that. Okay, lovely. So we're going to start by introducing Bill. And also then we're going to bring our first question in, which actually goes perfectly with Bill's introduction. So let's just quickly find the right piece of paper. Bill Flocco has been a practitioner in the field of reflexology for 40 years. Bill, that completely puts me to shame and probably most of the other reflexologists around here as well. That's absolutely amazing. He is past president of the International Council of Reflexologists. He conducted the first reflexology research study published in a scientific medical journal. He also started something I think that we all know and love, and it's something called World Reflexology Week. Bill's the guy that devised it. It's absolutely amazing. He coined the term ear reflexology, popularized classroom instruction in hand reflexology, ear reflexology, and was inducted into the International Council of Reflexologists Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He is the founder of the American Academy of Reflexology and has shared numerous discoveries about the technology of integrating foot, hand, ear reflexology on 4 continents. So Bill and the team, I'm going to be introducing the rest of the team in just a moment. But Bill and your team, you are so welcome. Thank you for being with us and for sharing all what you are going to be sharing with your knowledge. But Bill, if I may, I would like to start by asking, could you please actually give an overview of the advantages of integrating foot, hand, and ear reflexology? Because I practice foot and hand reflexology, but it sounds the way that you do it, it's integrated. So the sounds as if there's more to it than just giving a ordinary, if I can ever call it that, reflexology treatment.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, David, for the opportunity to share this information. We all know that foot reflexology is very powerful. What people are realizing more and more around the world is that hand reflexology in many, many ways is equally as powerful, standing by itself. The feet are easier to work with in that they just sit there on the table or reclining chair, but the hands are equally as effective, even though they take a little bit more effort to work with. Ear reflexology is stunningly powerful as well. So they each work powerfully just by themselves. So imagine adding those other 2 to what you already do, since most of us are foot reflexologists. However, what we began to discover approximately 40 years ago was that sometimes the feet are better for certain conditions, certain parts of the body. The hands are better, the ears are better. So in a nutshell, what we devised is, and we discovered, and it took quite a few years to discover all of this, and we're still in the discovery stage, is that working on all 3 in each reflexology session is far more powerful than working on just any one of them by themselves. So in a nutshell, that's what integrated foot, hand, and ear reflexology is.
Excellent. So I also noticed something that intrigued me, and it's a term that, and by the way, I absolutely agree with you about hand reflexology being just as powerful, if not more powerful. I remember, shall I say, receiving it by accident. My tutor told me that hand reflexology didn't work. So what a great introduction to hand reflexology when you're learning reflexology, to be told, oh, we've got to teach this, but it doesn't work. Like, oh, okay. So of course, I then believed it didn't work. I then started teaching, and I thought, well, I better not say that to my students, because that's going to be a real bad start. And one of the students said to me, she says, I need to come round. She says, I need some extra practice. Can I give you a treatment? Well, I'm not going to say no now, am I? And she wanted to practice hand reflexology on me. And I have to say, I was disappointed when she told me she wanted to give me hand reflexology. But I thought, well, no, stay professional. She laid me back in the chair. She started working on my hands, and I just dissolved. I was crying my eyes out. I was going through a particularly emotionally bad time in my life. And she got to it straight away. Oh, Bill, you were absolutely right. Hands are so powerful. They really, really are. All I will say, it was like being ministered to by an angel. It really, really, really was. So totally agree with you. But a question I do want to ask you, Bill, is what is priority reflexing, please? Because it's something I've not heard of before.
We have two terms that are related. One is priority reflexing, and the other one is progression reflexing. It took us years and years and years to discover this, working with clients, working with all three. What we discovered is sometimes the ears are better. So for example, if somebody's got, most of the time if somebody has, let's say, jaw, neck, shoulders, let's skip the thoracic spine, but go down to lumbar, sacrum, and coccyx reflexes. Ears are light years ahead. Feet are still powerful, second, and then feet, hands third. Headaches, hands first, etc. So priority reflexing is, of the three, which one has experience told us consistently, with our exceptions, is best to work on first. Then progression reflex is what's then based on experience and consistent experience, second and third, but still good. So they're all good. It's just if somebody's in pain, do you want to pick the one that's kind of like not as consistent, or do you want somebody to pick the one that's going to be most consistent, most dependable most of the time for relieving that pain right away? So priority reflexing is where to go first. Progression reflexing is where then consider going second and third.
I love it. That's brilliant. Thank you very, very much. By the way, I have just muted everybody. It's not that I'm being rude. It's just that part of the way through when Bill was speaking, there was somebody just literally, all they did was clear their throat and then they went full screen. So it's just purely so that we can make sure that that doesn't happen. Okay, so we are going to start off with a question that we've received. And this will give me an opportunity to one by one introduce each of the Academy 5. And it's a very pertinent question as well, very of our time. Now then, do we have Maureen from Heart and Soul Reflexology here yet? Maureen, please just say, yeah, unmute yourself and say yes if you're here. I can't see you, so... No, okay. So on behalf of Maureen, and also there was somebody else that's also asked this question as well. She's saying that we've got COVID long haulers now. What I would love, and let's see, can we start with Stephanie, if that's okay? So I'm just going to do a quick introduction of Stephanie in a moment. But what Maureen is after is information on a piece of wonderful technique or a piece of advice that we can help with COVID long haulers. And we had somebody else who was also saying about fatigue that also seems to be associated with long COVID. Now, I'm just going to introduce Stephanie to you. So Stephanie Sabushin, a native German. She's been teaching the Flocco method of integrated foot and ear reflexology and advanced ear reflexology throughout the US and internationally. Now, I have to say, I've got a vested interest as far as Stephanie is concerned, because Stephanie has very, very kindly agreed to come and teach her wonderful auricular reflexology over in the UK at my college in Nottingham. So I'm so excited about that, really, really am. She's a certified reflexology educator with NCRE, a national board certified reflexologist, and a certified auricular therapist. So you originally came from Germany, Stephanie, and then became affiliated with the American Academy back in 2003. Is that about right?
Yes. Hello,
Fabulous.
everyone. That is right.
Okay, so a fabulous nugget, please, from you for COVID.
Well, hello, everyone. And thank you so much for inviting me to this panel. It is wonderful to be here among so many beautiful reflexologists. I work always integration of foot, hand, ear reflexology. So I always work with the feet, with the hands and the ears. However, my specialty is also ear reflexology. And I found in my experience with long COVID now, which I worked with a few clients and friends, of course, that some protocols on the ears, especially a lot of people suffering from fatigue. And in ear reflexology, or some call it also auricular therapy, but the therapy of the outer ear, there we have, in addition to the somatotopic map, we also have master points as well as functional points. So we have a little bit more available on the ears. They're so small, but so powerful. So we have, for example, a vitality point on the ears, on the tragus. And that is one particular point I find very, very powerful for long COVID. So that is one point I always would add into the protocol. And another point I always work into or use in ear reflexology, but specifically also really powerful for long COVID, is master point Shen Men, so in the upper triangular valley. And these, just alone these points, bring people a little bit more from this, out of this fatigue state, giving them more, balancing the system in a different way that only foot and hand reflexology could do it, as well as helping to relieve these fatigue syndromes. And this is consistently with everyone who I spoke with who suffered from or suffering from long COVID, going through the fatigue. It's a big one. So as I said, on the ears, we have some functional points available as well as master points, and adding these to the integration of foot, hand, ear reflexology, where of course we can work for balancing everything in the head and neck reflexes and the spinal reflexes. Just to add one more thing to it on the ears, we have the spinal cord and the spinal column reflexes. These are two different reflex areas. On the feet and the hands, it's one area. On the ears, it's separated out, spinal column and spinal cord reflexes. So that again gives us more to work with.
That's fabulous, Stephanie. Thank you very, very much. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in Paul Harvey. I like Paul very much. I found out that I had something in common with him at 2 o'clock in the morning a couple of days ago, didn't I, Paul? I'd got a really stinky cold. I just couldn't sleep. And Paul and I were emailing. Probably it was, I don't know, still morning for you or something like that.
Oh, yeah, towards the evening, but you were awake.
So here we go. Let's be professional now. So
Yeah.
Paul, he's an experienced nationally certified clinical reflexologist. Paul is a member of the International Council of Reflexologists, the ARCB, and the Reflexology Association of California. He has maintained a thriving reflexology practice for more than 40 years, working for over 20 of those years as the reflexologist for a team of 5 medical doctors. I think this is where we need to be. This is fabulous. So this is at the world famous Whitaker Wellness Medical Clinic in Southern California. With his extensive experience as a clinical reflexologist, Paul created and teaches a series of condition-specific technique workshops, integrating foot, hand, and ear reflexology, as well as proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. I'll tell you what, try saying that if you've had a few, combined with reflexology. Paul was most recently published in Prevention magazine, so you're also then a published researcher by the sound of it then, and a featured speaker at the 2021 International Council of Reflexologists Conference. So Paul, what nugget of knowledge can you give us for COVID long haulers, people suffering with fatigue that goes along with that as well?
Well, first, thank you, David, for having us here today, and it's a very exciting program to be a part of. Working in the medical clinic, as I still do with one single doctor, we have not seen a great number of COVID, but those who we have seen, once they've reached the stage where they can come into the office, it's mainly the fatigue that Stephanie was talking about, but also lung and breathing issues. And so the main concentration has been for the lung and breathing issues, the fatigue, but also the entire endocrine system, working with the liver, the kidneys, all of the eliminative organs in the body to get rid of that process that is happening, and unfortunately continues for weeks on end for so many people. But the reflexology just can be so intensely helpful for many in that situation.
That's wonderful, Bill. Thank you so much. Robin, I don't seem to have a introductory biography for you. Bill, you know Robin. Would you please be able to introduce Robin for us so that she can then add her nugget of information? Would that be okay?
Robin has been teaching reflexology, I forget how long, at least 20 years, possibly longer, integrated foot, hand, ear reflexology. And Robin has the distinct experience, if you will. She's also been a massage therapist working in many clinical situations and corporate situations. And she's got profound experience of integrating foot, hand, ear reflexology for massage therapy itself. So she has a world of knowledge of combining both disciplines. And she's also, on the other side of things, was president and I think treasurer of the Reflexology Association of California for many years. So she's contributed to the field of reflexology in many ways.
Thank you for that. Thank you for having me, asking me to join this wonderful group. Yes, I've been a massage therapist for just about a year longer than I've been a reflexologist. And with every massage session that I gave, I always incorporated reflexology in it once I had learned the technique. And I feel that it enhanced whatever I was trying to do for massage therapy. Some people have an achy muscle, whatever it is, and they want a little help with it. And they feel that, getting in there with your hands and elbows and very physical is the way to go. And sometimes it's nice to come in from the feet, hands, and ear aspects and help relax those areas with reflexology, and then go back and rub their backs and make them feel like they've had an entire body massage, which really they have had more than that, because the reflexology takes them to a deeper level. As far as long hauler issues goes, I haven't had that much experience as yet, except I have been a long hauler, but not with the fatigue. I lost my sense of taste and smell, and it's slowly coming back. It's been about a year and a half. And I've tried to work through my nose, with essential oils in different ways, and using the reflexology on myself. But I can't really give an answer to that, because my clients have not come in with the long haulers fatigue issues as such. So I haven't experienced that firsthand.
Thank you so much.
And I do play the French horn as well, just for those who might be interested.
That's fabulous. I love these little snippets. That's fabulous. Okay, so I'm going to be going next to Tan. Tan is a co-founder of the Georgia Reflexology organization. He was on the board of the American Reflexology Certification Board for 13 years. Also was on the board of directors for the International Council of Reflexologists for 7 years, and was on the board director for the National Council of Reflexology Educators. I tell you what, I feel like Tan, I need to be sort of bowing to you. That's amazing, absolutely amazing. And I believe, Tan, that you sing and you also play French horn as well.
I dance as well as sing, yes.
Fabulous. So Tan, a little nugget of information, because all of these little bits, they all add together, don't they? And then, who knows, we might be able to create something that's going to be ultra helpful.
Again, thanks so much, David, for this wonderful session here. In terms of COVID, I have had that before it was named COVID. So we were actually in Hong Kong, and actually we were sick, for a week. And then Michael, my husband, actually had one day that he couldn't breathe, and just like saying that he was breathing in, but there's no air coming through. So that was just crazy. And then what I've done basically for me, and then for people who have had exposed to that, and then sort of in the recovery phase, just supporting the systems, and basically just kind of like overall supporting the system, just really getting them overall healthy, boost the immune system through reflexology. I do massage as well, and teach a lot of different massage therapy techniques and things like that. I use the lymphatic drainage massage techniques quite a bit, and then just kind of getting that filtering system through the body, and then so that the body can renew easier that way. So seeing a lot of probably I would say 50 to 60% of getting better with people. So yeah, that's my experience so far.
Tan, thank you so much. That's wonderful. Now then, so last but certainly not least, I don't think I've forgotten anybody. We have Lisa Chan, and I've got the most wonderful biography from Lisa here. She's got I just love your humor, Lisa. So Lisa Chan, a slightly obsessive Flocco method reflexologist, who recently added a PhD in Oriental medicine and work in homeopathy due to grandiose dreams of saving the world. It's been humbling. If she were a dog, she'd be a golden retriever. I like that. My parents used to have golden retrievers. I love golden retrievers. Her work with the Bill Flocco and the Academy, she was given great freedom to research and to teach a wild range of subjects. Her favorite was intention and visualization. Lisa, you're my kind of girl. I love visualization. Where the mind goes, the body follows. It's such a powerful healing tool. So everybody, I give you Lisa Chan for her golden nugget on what we can do to help with long COVID and fatigue.
So
yes.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everybody. Okay. So I had some experience with long COVID because I just worked straight through clinically. And I just used my training, you know, with the Flocco method. I find out what their weaknesses are because COVID affects everyone differently. So they have a different set of symptoms. So like when Tan was mentioning the difficulty breathing in. So the difficulty breathing in is kidney weakness. So I would work more on the kidneys, and the difficulty breathing out is lung, but most people had lung problems. And so I found that reflexology helped the lungs so much. We always work the liver, as Paul was saying, liver, what did you say? Liver, kidney, I guess, because we want to detoxify and help them. Everybody just needed help. I did so much work on the fingers and toes, and basically giving your clients points that they can do at home, and lots of homework and support. And I found also the cervical vertebrae reflexes, as Robin mentioned, the olfactory. She's working with essential oils to help to bring back her sense of smell and taste. Also working the cervical vertebrae for the 10 cranial nerves, but especially the sensory, because COVID seemed to attack more sensory systems, and also the great awareness of our humanity and how much love and support and supportive words that these people need, because it's so difficult. I found myself much more working from the heart than ever before during COVID. Recently, the Atlantic Monthly just published an article about medium COVID, which is in between short COVID and long COVID, which is the 12 weeks after one has finished with COVID, because there's a vulnerability to the body and to fatigue, brain fog, and respiratory system that we're not paying attention to. So, get your people to come in after they have COVID and work on them, because it really helps them because they're so weak. That's all.
Lisa, thank you so much. I was going to move on to a different question, but actually I've just had a message coming through on the chat. Lee Taylor, could I bring you in, please? Could you put your question to the panel? And then if one of the panel sort of want to then dive in and answer, then that would be great, please.
Hi, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you all, lovely to see so many familiar faces. The question I've got is, what preventative measures can be taken in reflexology terms, since COVID may well be in our consciousness for quite a long time to come?
Okay, so would one of the panel like to ask? Yeah. I can see Lisa pointing a finger, but I don't know.
Bill.
She's pointing at Bill.
She's pointing at Bill. Okay.
I think if we were just thinking of feet, we would be thinking, what are the parts that help immunity? And there are certainly the spleen and the thymus, but a lot of people are realizing more and more the profound importance of the gut for autoimmunity. And then the 5 major areas of concentrations of lymph nodes in the body. So if somebody were to work the feet, the hands, and the ears for the spleen, for the liver, the thymus, and also for the areas of concentration of lymph nodes in the body, and do that possibly 2 or 3 times a week, if possible, give people homework. That would be on the preventative side and the enhancement side. And of course, once in a while, reflex for everything overall. So that would be the preventative way of enhancing the body's natural self-defense mechanisms that we were born with.
I do like that, what you've said there, Bill, reflexology overall, because of course we are holistic. Every single system is interdependent on each other. I'm just going to interject a little bit of, if I may, I shouldn't be doing this because I'm supposed to be the compare. But I would also be saying on with this one, Lee, I can see you laughing here. You know, I just couldn't help myself. But I would be saying that anti-inflammatories, some of the research that I've read on COVID, it seems that there are micro-inflammations within the red blood cells. Of course, the red blood cells are the ones that carry the oxygen. It's the oxygen that provides the energy. And then that's why we are getting people that are suffering with fatigue, because, of course, the body isn't becoming oxygenated properly because of these micro-inflammations. There's a term that we've got in the UK called happy hypoxia. It's where people's oxygen levels have fallen sort of way down. I mean, you should be up in the 90% oxygen saturation. We've got people that we haven't even felt ill, and they've got oxygen saturations in the 60s instead of up in the 90s. And so I would be saying work on anti-inflammatories, so adrenals for corticosteroids. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, working the spleen, the master organ of the immune system, so that our immune system is completely topped up as much as possible. Is there anybody else from the Academy 5 that wants to add in on preventative measures, or shall we move on to our next question? Okay, we shall move on.
Paul has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Paul, please come on in.
Hello. Just a little bit of an aside. Everyone, do your own research on this. But of course, our body's natural immune system is the best preventative aside from reflexology. And vitamin D3 at its proper level, their study after study after study shows the relationship, first of all, with flus, etc., but then more recently with COVID and as a preventative. But you know, not a recommendation. Just do your own research on that, and I believe we'll find that that's you know, quite a positive step to take, and to keep those vitamin D levels up to a certain blood percentage.
Paul, you are spot on. And in fact, COVID was the first time, the result of COVID was the first time that I actually heard GPs recommending supplementation, especially with vitamin D3. I could hardly believe my ears when I started hearing GPs saying you need to take your vitamins, because beforehand they were all saying, oh, you can get it in your food, you can get it in the sunshine and all the rest of it. But we suddenly realized that, yeah, things aren't quite as straightforward as we thought it was beforehand. Okay, so do we have Dawn Webber with us? If you could just speak up if you're here so that I can see you. No. All the people that said they were going to be here aren't here. This is bad. Okay, not to worry. So Dawn asks, I am seeking advice for helping in treating a client with diabetes and hot flashes. She is a 58-year-old female that started having hot flashes in 2019 prior to her diabetes diagnosis. She's type 2 and managing fine. She has been receiving reflexology every 4 weeks since February of this year. She has recently shared with me that she discovered that when she's having a hot flash, most intense from midnight through to 6 a.m., her blood sugar is raised. Do you know of any correlation between these, or any advice to help her through this. Now, Robin Varga, I've got a feeling, are you sort of going to be able to help with this one? Robin, I can't hear you. Are you muted?
Mute button there. Oh, here I am. I'm not sure about the diabetes and the hot flashes. I've had many clients with hot flashes and who suffer on the most irregular time frame and whenever and wherever, and intense and mild flashes. And, it's complicated, but the reflexology does seem to give some help with them, as I've noticed, and I've given them the homework to be able to do it on themselves, because I'm certainly not going to do a house call at 3 a.m. But yes, on some of the reproductive reflexes on the feet, hands, and ears, the ovaries reflexes, the uterus, and the correlating reflexes on all 3 systems. So whenever it's possible, I've shown them where to work, and they have reported that they've had some result. It's a complex issue, and I found with the women I've spoken with who've experienced this kind of thing, it's just a very up and down kind of event. It doesn't happen on 3 times a week at 2 a.m. They don't know often. So it's a complex one.
Thank you, Robin. That's great. I was just wondering whether there is some kind of depletion, especially being as that is happening at the same time of the day, even though this is not, it's midnight through to 6 a.m. And whether there would be a correlation with a meridian that is perhaps out of balance with this. Lisa, would you be able to add to that?
Yeah, so the gallbladder is like, I don't know, 11 to 1. The liver is 1 to 3. And those are the most common times for a woman or a man to have a hot flash. It's liver, gallbladder heat. I'm suggesting to the questioner that she also refer her client to other people who could help, like a nutritionist or a acupuncturist or herbalist, because there's some basic, simple things to help with hot flashes, as well as the endocrine balance point in the ear. That is like heaven for hot flashes, right? So if she could teach, I mean, all of us know this, if she could teach her client how to help herself, so before she goes to sleep, she can do this, and if she wakes up with a hot flash, she can do this. It helps to balance. Also, there's like really basic nutritional supplements and herbs that will help her, but work the liver gallbladder to balance it, and the hormonal systems, and homeopathy. There's so many things that can help that woman. I feel freaked out. So much can help her. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful, Lisa. Is there anybody else?
I wanted to add
yes,
something.
Stephanie. Yes.
Lisa was talking about the master endocrine point for balancing hormones. So that is amazing for hot flashes. But of course, we're balancing the entire hormonal system. And since this is a recording and I have an ear here, I might just point out where this point is. It is actually in the notch between the tragus and the antitragus. There's a little notch. And if she puts her finger, the tip of the index finger, just in that notch on the rim of that notch, that's where we find the master endocrine point. And I show it on my own ear. So I take my index finger and put it from the top down on the ridge of the notch between the tragus and antitragus, and just relax my shoulders. And she can do it with both ears and just hold it. It really, holding it for a few minutes, first of all, it relieves the hot flashes pretty fast. But it also over time helps to balance the entire endocrine system. And doing that multiple times might help this woman in addition to many other things she could try out.
David?
Yes.
We had a lady coming to a meeting that some of us had to make a presentation to us. And in the middle of the meeting, she started to have hot flashes. And I think it was Stephanie who showed her to do what Stephanie just showed, which is to put the fingertip right into that notch and hold it. So the lady did it on both ears while she was continued talking, and she was stunned. About a minute later, she stopped and she said, the hot flashes have stopped. So it's a very powerful point that Stephanie just showed.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And then, of course, Lee has just sent me a message saying about, don't forget about the Chinese body clock, because lungs are 3 to 5 a.m. And of course, if we've got somebody that has having this happen repeatedly again and again and again, they're going to be getting super stressed about it. And the lungs, of course, are such a great meridian, plus also a reflex point to work for somebody that's stressed. And what does stress do? It plays havoc with the endocrine system as well. So on top of, with the diabetes and with her going through the menopause, it's, oh gosh, absolutely. It's a cascade effect, isn't it? Next question. I'm going to come back to Stephanie, if I may. Stephanie, that was perfect timing that you held up that ear, because there is a question specifically for you from Karen. She's asked me to ask this on her behalf because she's going to be watching on catch up. She says, are there any conditions that respond better to ear reflexology more so than classical foot reflexology? And can you tell me why that might be?
So Bill has already pointed out at the beginning when he talked about the integration of foot hand ear reflexology, priority progression reflex, that the ears specifically work amazingly fast to relieve any pain or discomfort for neck, lower back, lumbar sacrum coccyx, as well as hip, sciatica. Now, in my experience of more advanced ear reflexology, I also find conditions like anxiety and depression, as well as PTSD and chronic fatigue syndrome, very, very responsive, more so with the ears. So in these cases, I still will work the hand and foot reflexology maps. However, I would spend more time on the ears. Now, it's kind of easy to answer the question why anxiety, depression, PTSD, and chronic fatigue syndrome might work better on the ears or faster on the ears, because we have all these other points available, like the specific master points and very specific functional points. For neck, lower back, not so much the thoracic spine, but cervical spine and lumbar spine, sacrum coccyx. Bill, do you have an answer for that? Why it works so much faster?
We all have to remember that reflexology is in its early stages of development. Some people say it comes from Egypt. We know that's a fallacy. We know that it started with Riley and Fitzgerald. But so we're in the infancy of our field, and yet we're accelerating. And the fact is, we have to be humble enough to know that sometimes we don't know why everything's working the way it is. So those of you who are here, and those of you who are teachers, the people you teach are going to be the people who are going to go and discover things like this.
But it's very interesting that you say that it works faster, because some of the reflexologists that I know in the UK who are auricular reflexologists, they say the same thing as well. They say it's almost instantaneous results. Paul, can I see you with your hand up, my friend? Come on in.
Well, just to talk about some of the areas where the ears are more effective or act quicker. In condition-specific technique, one of the protocols we have among several for neurological issues is for Parkinson's disease. And we find that when we're dealing with areas, specific areas of the brain, those are certainly mapped out best on the ears. And we find that when we start working with areas that affect Parkinson's and dopamine production and transmission, such as the red nucleus and the what's that other one? The substantia nigra and areas like that. We actually, during session time, when we're holding those areas, we can see a severe Parkinson's patient stop tremoring. So in multiple areas, using the ears for neurological issues can be a great advantage.
That must be absolutely amazing to, with somebody that's got Parkinson's of all things, to be able to see the tremor stop. That has to be, well, I'd be thinking my name was Jesus Christ if I did that. That would be fabulous, absolutely fabulous.
Well, after we finish walking across the water, then we try to get down to earth after that. But the last clinic patient that I worked with before coming onto this today is a Parkinson's patient, and as soon as we started working with those areas of his ears, his tremors stop, and he'll sit there or lie there on the table and raise his hands up, and he's looking at his hands and they're not tremoring. He'll raise up the other one and they're not tremoring. And then the key, though, is to find out, we look for a longer and longer lasting effect between sessions. So the key is to find out when we get to that point, like Bill said, we're so much in our infancy now with reflexology. If we get to that point where we can see the tremor begin to dissipate altogether during the remainder of the day. And that's where the idea of a reflexology hospital comes into play, but that's a whole different deal.
Oh my, what a dream. What a dream that would be. That would be just amazing. Okay, so I'm going to be asking Alice G. You mentioned on the chat you've got a question for us. Alice, would you like to put it to our panel, please?
Hi, I'm working with a client who has prostate cancer and was in remission for quite some time, and it's now seems to be like it's active again. Is there any particular reflexes that I should concentrate on? I know the immune system is probably a big one. I don't do ear yet, but I'm getting quite excited about it as I'm listening to everybody. So that's my question.
Okay, so who from the Academy 5 would like to answer that? Bill, yes, please go for it.
Thank you. I can speak of this personally because I was diagnosed with prostate cancer about 25 years ago. The radiologist wanted me to do radiation, the surgeon wanted me to do surgery. I did research and I decided to not do either and to do watchful waiting, but cautiously. Since then, I've been using mainly the feet, the inner ankle of the foot, as far as directly helping prostate, and the hand, of course, below the prostate reflex on the inner edge of the hand down near the wrist, and then the ear well, there are a couple of prostate reflexes on the ears, but I do those, But it's very important to pay attention to lifestyle, to nutrition, to exercise, to certain nutrients, and to avoid sugars, especially chocolates, which I love. But as far as reflexology, the doctors are amazed that my prostate PSA has not gone up fast at all. It's gone up very slowly over the last 25 years. So I'm very, very grateful to know the reflex locations, but also my sweetheart went through the courses with me. I also have Parkinson's, and my sweetheart learned how to do Parkinson's protocols from Paul and some help from Stephanie. And the doctors are amazed both how my prostate issue has not progressed very quickly and how my Parkinson's condition has progressed much more slow. They're almost stunned at how slowly it's progressing. So we would think of the normal immunity issues for prostate, and we would think of the prostate itself. So I would suggest mainly the prostate issue itself, prostate reflexes themselves, but then all the normal reflexes we would work on for autoimmunity on the feet, hands, and ears.
Thank you, Bill. I know that he's not going to be ready for this, but I've got a feeling, Kotan, have you got something that you want to add to that as far as prostate cancer is concerned?
Yeah, other than what Bill just said, I think in terms of TCM, Chinese medicine, it's a lot about the male energy that is being sort of like stuck for some reason, and then so a lot of times that my ex actually had surgery because of the COVID too. I mean, because of the prostate, and then I think there's a lot of things that male as a guy, as a man, and then that we're not expressing enough to let that energy sort of freely flowing, and then not as much as like female that you can sort of express yourself easier. I think there's a stagnation somehow that kind of maintaining the male population with that kind of phenomena, with that kind of like output. Yeah. So I work with a lot of the male issue stuff, and then it's kind of like amazing that to see herbs. I use herbs for him, and then after that, he was totally just clear of everything after the surgery. There's no negative effects and things like that. There's a herb. Well, I'm not going to say it here, but there's a herbal combination that is really great, and there's no side effect at all from that. So, yeah.
Tam, that's perfect. And you are so right, because when we don't express and release, it just turns in on ourselves. Mm-hmm. And with something that is so creative, as the prostate is, any reproductive reflex is so powerful if it gets turned in on itself. And then, of course, it's no wonder when things go bad.
Yeah, I think he's not here. Oh, it's that Lee Taylor. I think you were actually working with a lot of the male issue stuff, right? So and then I think that is a wonderful thing for men to be able to express our feelings and our there are ways for guys to kind of express in terms of it's okay to feel bad. It's okay to feel pain. It's okay to sort of express that. I think, we are progressing that, men are able to express more now. That is a good direction to be. Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right, Kotan. And Lee, indeed, he does a course called Men's Health. I think it's something that it's been long awaited, much needed. And we need to put reflexology on the map for blokes, because it does seem to be by women for women, and actually we're missing out half the population. You know, we've got to show that it is. I mean, here's me. I'm passionate about it, and I'm a bloke, so yeah. Anyway, shut up, David. Let's move on to the next question.
Thank you, David.
So, I can't see Doreen on the list of people that's here, but Doreen, if you are here, please shout out. She asked a question about body mechanics, and I know that Bill particularly wants to answer this question. She says that she works with hospice patients. It gets her into precarious positions with a footboard on their hospital bed, or with me sitting on the floor as the patient is in their recliner. After 20 years, a broken wrist, arthritis in my hands, I'm looking for ways to adapt my treatment style. So Bill, yeah, I know you definitely wanted to answer on this one, because you got quite excited when I was talking to you earlier on, didn't you?
There are two aspects as I understand this question. One is working with people in a hospital bed. Well, you can't do much with working with the hands because there are oftentimes needles in the hands and arms. And it's hard to reach the ears because of all the equipment that's there. So this is where the feet are really marvelous to work with. But the question is, how do you work with the feet when you have the end of the hospital bed there? The only thing I can think of right now is if you can't move the bottom of the hospital bed, then to elevate the feet so that the feet are at a level that work comfortably for you. In other words, rather than just your body to where their feet are, just their feet so that they're comfortable for you. Number one. Number two, as far as sitting on the floor, I tend to discourage that. If you can have put their feet at the level of like a chair, or when you're sitting with your arms straight out, that you can grasp their feet, then you can use your body leverage to help you with getting into the tissue. So rather than sit on a stool and elevate their feet at a level that's comfortable for you. The third aspect is a little bit more esoteric. Between the softer surface tissue, especially of the feet and hands, but a little bit on the ears, and the deeper, firmer tissue, a lot of people try with their thumb roll or thumb walk to push into the deep tissue. And sometimes that's needed. But what if, rather than strain our thumbs, we were to work between that level where the softer surface tissue is and the deeper, tough, harder tissue is, work in a sense across the harder tissue, and it will soften fairly quickly, and then start to work as that softer tissue softens, that deeper hard tissue softens and invites you to go deeper. Then you can very slowly go deeper, but rather than work harder with your thumbs or fingers, then you can go deeper without any more strain on your thumbs. Also, ahead of time, if you can do either soak their feet or do Popman movements on their feet, or do other types of approaches to softening the tissue before you actually start working on them. So there are 3 or 4 different solutions to that issue.
Bill, that's perfect. Thank you very, very much. One thing that I would say, I noticed that she's got arthritis in her hands. So I would be saying, come along and see me at my finger-free reflexology class. Because with my one, we don't use any articulating joints at all. So that might help. Couldn't help myself there with that one. Anybody else from the Academy 5 that would like to dive? Robin, yes, please, come on in.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, I've done a lot of outcall and gone to people's homes where they've had less than perfect height chairs, beds, tables, situations. And I've learned to bring a very low little fold-up stool with me. And I've worked with clients who have been in the hospital with cancer and other issues, and I've gone and worked on their feet for a little while. And depending on the actual hospital bed, I bring a stool or a small stool or kind of normal height stool with me, because you never know what you're going to need. And when I first started out, I did a lot of sitting on the floor, and I realized very quickly that that wasn't going to work for me, just very uncomfortable. And so and in the hospital bed also, if they can prop their feet up with cushions to bring them up to that level over the railing that's at the foot of the bed, it makes it easier also if they can't raise their feet with the automatic electronics. And as far as being careful of using your fingers and thumbs too much if they're hurting or with arthritis, exactly what Bill said, sorry, going lighter and working, just keep going and repeating, and the tissue will soften and will let you in when it's appropriate. And so you don't have to use full force if you're not in a good position or you don't feel it's appropriate, especially if someone's ill and is on medication and is recovering or going through some hospital stay. You don't want to have all guns blazing. I don't feel it's too much. So you can adjust that accordingly and not hurt yourself and also benefit your client. But yeah, posture is very important. So if you can bring a small chair, stool, often you can find them at your local hardware store. They're fold up, they're not very expensive, and they fit in your car and you can just grab them and go. I use that with as Bill said, you can have a stool, have their feet balanced on a chair, and this brings you to the perfect level to be able to work comfortably. So yeah, you have to try it out and see what works for you. We're all differently proportioned, but it can be very helpful.
Robin, thank you so much. That's perfect. An excellent addition. Okay, now that we're going to do a quick fire. Stephanie, did you want to? Yes, you did. Okay, yes. Go for it, Stephanie.
Julie Beth had said in the chat, those footbed and headboards come off. And in my experience, in many hospital beds, actually the footrests come off. I had this experience and it was really great. Sometimes you have to just ask a nurse to help you with that. Or if the patient can actually get a different bed where the headboard or the footboard can get off. So that's an option too. I just wanted to point that out because I saw that. Very helpful, Julie Beth. Thank you.
Do you know what? That is such a simple addition to, I hadn't even thought of that. Change the bed. Why didn't I think of that? Brilliant. Well done, Stephanie. Kotan, you're waving at me like crazy. You want to come in?
I mean, just a couple of questions from what Robin was talking about. There's actually a new kind of like a stacking system chair that is very light and is very, very strong. And then that is so easy to carry around. Actually, you can put it in your purse for female therapists. And then you can just kind of pull it out and it's very solid. So if you are like, instead of lugging a chair around and things like that, it's like a disc. It kind of comes out and then you can sit right on it and then you can just collapse it. It's amazing. So the other thing I was thinking about from, Bill and Robin was talking about in terms of pressure and things like that. Sometimes I don't use my thumbs and fingers. I use, my, the end of my hand here and then go into those areas of the feet and hands. And then, so changing the way that you work is going to help you to sort of get away from that, repetition of joint movement. I think that will help you to kind of find different ways to kind of work with the reflexes that way as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, very quick fire round on everybody in the Academy 5 or Academy 6, is it? Being with Bill's here. Question from Angela Andrew. Again, I can't see that she's here on the list. It says that she was going to be here. What is your favorite cream or balm for using on the feet? So do you prefer cream? Do you prefer balm or another medium, of course? And let's start with Robin, please.
I use a massage cream. It's Biotone. It's something that someone introduced to me at one point. And when I first learned this technique, I did it dry. And I found at a certain point that it was really tough to move along and continue. And I was thinking of longevity in the field. And so I started using this cream, and it's not greasy at all. I've tried oils, I've tried many different things, and this one for me it's absorbed by the skin very well. Nobody has a residue left over on top. They don't have to go wash their hands immediately with soap and everything. They've complimented me on it because they say it feels so good and it moisturizes as well. So for me, it's a massage cream that's unscented and doesn't have a lot of chemicals in it. And it seems to work very well and give me enough. I just use it a tiny little bit to lubricate, and it works for me perfectly.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Lisa, same question, please.
We can't use powder like we used to because of our respiratory vulnerability. And I basically don't use oil because even though I clean their feet afterwards, I don't want them to slip in the shower. So if you use oil, please clean it really, really well. Yeah, and then rub it with a towel because it's dangerous, you know, for the elderly or anybody. And so I just use organic, non-scented something, and it has to have the ability to give friction. So just a little bit, because like Robin, it hurts my thumbs because I work too hard probably to go without the lotion. If somebody really died, the lotion on the from back, but yeah, it has to allow slow movement and the friction of going in and even just holding, or because I don't want to slip. Okay, so actually Biotone is too oily for me, but they put arnica in it now and it's great. It's great.
Fabulous. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, can we go to Paul? What do you recommend?
On the very rare occasion that I'll use a lotion, I'll use a very, very small amount of a non-scented lotion with an MSM component, and those are available. The MSM component allows it to absorb quickly through the skin, and then doesn't leave the client with that oily feeling like Lisa was talking about. Yeah, so that's my contribution on that one.
Excellent. Lovely. Kotan, what do you use?
I use different things. It all depends on who am I working with, and then I have gotten like herbal remedies in Thailand, and that's using the white ginger. That's amazing, healing properties in that. And then, but I'm comparing the cream and the lotion. The cream actually has more of an oil base, right? So you can glide longer. And then the lotion actually is better for reflexology for me because it does evaporate a little bit faster, and it sort of now a lot of the lotion actually has a little bit of like a texture base. So it really helps with the traction for me. So it's like it's not going to get into the oily stage, and then yet it dries up just enough for me to work and then use that as a traction instead of nothing at all. And it really helps. And then I don't, like everybody else, I don't use scented product. So.
Excellent. I tell you what, that sounds like the perfect product. It really does. Stephanie, what do you recommend?
Well, as many of us from the Academy, we learned to work with a thumb roll without lotion. However, I was introduced actually, Lisa, by Chris with some lotion while he was working on my feet. And I thought, oh, this feels heavenly. So I'm actually using also Biotone, and I use the lotion as Kotan said, because the cream is too oily, way too oily. And what I do is, instead of putting it on the feet or the hands of my clients, I put it on my hands so that I have a little bit more that it's smoother to work, but I can still do the thumb roll without sliding all over the skin. And of course, unscented.
Thank you so much. And then last but definitely not least, Bill, is there anything that you recommend?
I started my career with the thumb walk that most people have learned. And then as I traveled around the world in different cities and countries, I started to notice people had different problems depending on their teacher. Like one place they'd have problems with their fingers, pain, or they have problems with their wrist or their forearm or their elbow or their shoulders. And so what I began to do is analyze the biomechanics of how people were working. And what I began to do is one day I was working on Lisa, and Lisa I was working on her hand. She turned her head sideways, almost snapping her head off, saying, "Bill, what are you doing differently?" And I realized I had developed a technique that became known as the thumb roll, where rather than working into the tissue each time, thumb walk, began to work across the tissue, between the soft tissue and the hard tissue. And early in my career, I was told to use talcum powder, but then I heard that toxic quality of that, so I went to cornstarch. And then I heard, well, why not lotions? And for about 2 years, I explored with every single lotion I could ever get my hands on. And at the end of that, I realized I preferred the thumb roll with no lotions, no powders. So if you're working with somebody more in a spa setting or relaxation or soothing work, I think it's lovely to use the types of lotions or creams that are being suggested now. But I'm sort of like what I call a Mars reflexologist. One of the words we have taught our students is nail that sucker. And so people tended to come to me with issues that needed to be approached. So you have a problem with your shoulder or your gut or your prostate or your uterus or your sinus or whatever, nail that sucker, do the foot, hands, and ears, get to those points, and then do the overall work. But rather than use oils or lotions, for the last 20 years, I've worked dry, but between the soft tissue and the firm tissue, and rather than pushing in, using more forward leverage to help the thumb come across the tissue.
Bill, that's excellent. Thank you very much. I don't know whether you could see, but I was laughing. I love that expression. Nail that sucker. And do you know what? I'm going to start using that with my students as well. It's a case of, if they're being a bit too tentative, I'm going to, come on, nail that sucker. That's brilliant.
It's a technical term.
A technical term, absolutely.
Technical medical term, yeah.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Okay, so do we have Yvette Bush with us? Please tell me that somebody that's asked one of the questions is actually here.
She was here and she had to leave. She got in
No!
the chat that she had to leave.
Oh,
yeah.
gosh. Okay, I will read the question out then. So what areas or approach would each of your guests address for vagal tone and or parasympathetic imbalances? Now, actually, I'll tell you what, Stephanie, you're big on my screen at the moment, so can you start this one off for us, please?
Yes, thank you, David, and thank you for asking the question, Yvette. So, of course, we're always balancing the spinal reflexes and the head reflexes of all 3 feet, hand, and ears in every session. And then on the ears, we have, as I pointed out earlier at the beginning, that we have separate reflexes for spinal cord and spinal column reflexes. So the spinal cord reflexes on the ears, I always also include in every session for balancing sympathetic nervous system, the entire nervous system, of course. Then on the ears, what I like to also include is the vagus point. And then we have areas or reflexes on the ears for the pre and post ganglion nerves, in addition to some other functional points, omega points, for example. So again, we can add I can add on the ears a lot of other points in addition to just working the spinal reflexes and the head and neck the head reflexes. And solar plexus point comes to mind, and I'm sure the rest of the 5 will add to this.
Okay, anybody in the 5 would like to add to this? Stephanie has given you the invitation to add your knowledge. Please.
Well, the vagus nerve point on the that Stephanie mentioned on the ear. You have your big ear there, Stephanie. Show us the vagus. There we go. So just before the finger would disappear down the ear canal, pretty much is where that vagus nerve point is. And then I would add to that, just following the anatomy of the vagus nerve, which is from the diaphragm up through the voice box and the vocal cords. So following that on the feet and hands.
Thank you, Paul. That's excellent. Lovely. Now, I'm just going to dive into something completely different because, guys, you might not have seen, we have been asked, and this is one for you, Bill. Could you please demonstrate the thumb roll, if you would be so kind? If you could sort of put your fingers up fairly close to your camera so that we can see what the thumb roll should look like, please.
Because of my tremor, it won't show too well, but Stephanie, could I ask you to put your hand out and then demonstrate it? So notice her wrist is not high, her wrist is low. And then she has the pad of her thumb on the palm of the hand. And notice she will roll forward, raising the knuckle closest to the nail. And then as she scoots forward, she does not lift her hand up. So in the thumb walk, people lift up and go down, lift up and go down. Here, she does not break contact with the tissue. She rolls forward. She rolls forward. And as she scoots back, she continues with the forward leverage. It's called the thumb roll. Roll forward, scoot forward, roll forward, scoot forward. And you can see Tan doing it on the back of his hand. Rolling forward, scooting forward, rolling forward, scooting forward. And you have your slight body leverage helping you move forward. So rather than always pushing into all the time, those of us who know massage therapy have learned to use our forward body leverage to help us with our thumb roll across the tissue. Does that help you, David?
You're muted, David.
Thank you very much. Yes, that helped that perfectly, I think. That was for Alice G. So Alice, did that help for you? Okay, she's not answering, but it looked great to me anyway. Absolutely fabulous. It was very reminiscent to me of Hannah Marquardt's technique as well. She showed me something very, very
Alice
similar.
is muted.
Can I just ask something, David? When you do that, do you find that the nail digs into the tissue a lot?
One of the things that happens with graduates of the American Academy of Reflexology is that we file our nails down so you can use every angle of the tip or thumb of your thumb or finger, every corner of it. And so we do not have nails. When you go to conferences where there are massage therapists and reflexologists, you can tell the difference between the two. And when you're at reflexology conferences, you can tell the difference between academy graduates and graduates from many other schools. We really emphasize nails not being very short. And one time I had an office with a couple of other reflexologists who were lovely ladies who painted their nails every day. But before they did, they filed their nails. So they were still elegant looking, but they could do the work without hurting anybody with their nails.
Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful. And then for our final question, this is from Wendy in Canada, and she has said, "I'll be watching on catch up." She says, I will soon be starting to volunteer at a wellness and cancer center, and there are a lot of literature that supports foot reflexology as helping cancer patients with pain and anxiety. Similarly, some literature still believes that massage and reflexology have the potential to spread cancer by stimulating the lymphatic system too much or further causing cancerous cells to break off. What are your beliefs on this subject, and would you use a lighter touch when giving treatment under such circumstances? Who haven't we asked for, seen from for a while? Lisa, yes, Lisa, I've not heard from you for a little while. Do you want to come in on this one?
Actually, Robin teaches a class on it, and she had her hands up.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Robin, I'm going straight to you then. I do apologize. I didn't see. Robin,
Currently,
you're muted. That's it.
Oh, sorry. I have taught a class in the past, but I'm very conscious that depending on what kind of cancer it is, if it is lymphatic, if there's been lymph removed from any of the four quadrants of the body, meaning from the hip down, either leg in that area, or here, the upper body with all the lymph and everything that often gets affected by different cancers. If I'm working on someone, yes, I would go very lightly. If I'm working on a leg where there has been lymph removed, I will not work on that foot. I don't want to encourage lymphedema. And if you're not well trained in this field, there's a lot of knowledge about working body work with, excuse me, with people with cancer, and that you have to really, really be well informed before just saying, oh, I'm going to go help my friend who's suffering here. I would say, yes, you can work on them, but you have to really realize which part of the body you're working on and where the cancer has been located. And if there's been lymph removed, avoid that side. That would be the simplest. And then when you are working on their feet or their hands, I would go very gently. Their systems are being taxed inordinately, and we don't want to put too much stimulus into an area that's already being stimulated, overstimulated by the disease. So I would say go gingerly, yes, and for a very short time. Mm-hmm. I've worked on quite a few people during the last stages of cancer and also other stages, and they love the work, but just a short time is the best, and then maybe a couple of times a week if that's possible, but not longer than maybe 15 minutes on each foot or hand, depending on what you're working on. But be very, very careful and get some knowledge, read up on it, go to the web, get some information before you start to work with people with cancer. Yeah. That's it.
Excellent. No, totally agree with you on the pressure. Totally agree with you on the time. That's how we teach it in the UK as well. Shorter, lighter, and the no pain, no gain crowd in reflexology. Absolutely no place in palliative reflexology at all. Anybody else want to come in on? Oh, I'm seeing Stephanie waving her hands. Excellent. Come back, Stephanie. Yes, please.
So I have a personal experience in the family with somebody who got lymphatic cancer, and I felt so helpless because that's what I was taught. Lymphatic cancer, we have to be very, very careful. And so my approach was, of course, lighter. What I did was more helping with the side effects of the chemo. And I think that will be safe, on the feet, just the solar plexus for stomach reflexes, just holding points instead of doing a working session. Holding points, getting the side effects a little relieved, if nothing else.
Perfect. Perfect. Guys, I've just seen that we've been on this for an hour and a half now. Oh, Paul, have you got something you wanted to add as well?
Just wanted to say that in all this, and in any type of life-threatening disease, to be sure that if they're seeing a physician or a GP, that they have knowledge of what you're doing. 99 times out of 100, they say, "Oh, I can't hurt you," so but just so that they know and that they're aware.
Very, very valid advice. Bill, I can see you waving at me as well. Go for it.
I think we have to remember once again that we're at the very beginning of our career as a profession. There are many studies that are showing that reflexology is phenomenally helpful for many aspects of cancer. A lot of people are saying don't. A lot of schools are teaching don't do reflexology for cancer. They're being cautious. People are saying absolutely do reflexology for cancer. They're coming from the heart wanting to help. We have to be humble and say, we have so much to discover. Clearly, there's wisdom for each. The question is, each person is individual.
Mm.
As we continue with this phenomenal, fantastic field that we've been given, can we be open to researching and learning what for each person might be best?
Bill, those are extremely wise words. And I think that the reason that people do join us on these panels is because we all do still want to learn. And we are very, very much still finding our way. And I think when anybody comes along and says, I've got the answer to this, I've got the answer to that, they probably haven't. So may I thank Robin, Kotan, Stephanie, Bill, Paul, Lisa, the wonderful Academy 5 with Bill Flocco at the helm, shall we say. You have all been wonderful. You have given such excellent wisdom tonight. Very, very wise, very humble as well. I've learned so much. I know that everybody that's watched this as well, and everybody that will be watching on Catch Up will be learning so much too. It has been a pleasure to have you on this Zoom panel. Thank you, thank you, thank you.